Good morning, good evening, and good night, Trojans. I hope you all are doing well and finding this message in good health. Are you all well? I presume so. I'm going to briefly explain the ropes model as straightforward and honest as I possibly can. If you follow along with me, I promise you, this will be so easy. So the first step of the ropes model is research. Gather information, research. I know we've all written research papers, but when you're researching for a company, it goes to a whole nother level because then you're held accountable for whatever you missed. So always do your research, class. Next thing, which is still a part of research, you need to find out your audience. Find out how your customers feel about the product or the person. Find out what your shareholders feel because you know they have the money. Okay? The next step of the ropes model is the letter O, objectives. This is so straightforward. This is not the section for philosophies or trying to come up with some metaphor. Objectives are easily to identify. They're like targets in a range. You either hit them or you don't. And it's okay if you don't. You just need to slightly shift them. If your objectives are successful habits, then I promise you these next steps will be a lot more smooth. The next part is planning. R-O-P, we're at the letter P. Planning is vital. You cannot build a house if you do not make measurements. You cannot even make the blueprints if you don't know how big you're making it or how small you're making it. Without planning, everything from here on out will crumble, inevitably. I'm sorry, it's life. So, once you've made your measurements, i.e. building an effective strategy, trying to see what will work with your audience, with your shareholders, this runs into the next part, which is kind of stuck together. These are kind of conjoined. Just run the program. Time is the best medicine, and sometimes that's all you can do. Just wait. And cross your fingers and wait some more. But repeat after me, class. This is not the end. This is not the end. This, class, is not the end. If you stop here, you are doomed to fail. I'm sorry. It's life. You need to evaluate what just happened. Naturally, you want to know what went right and what went wrong. If you do not record this information, anyone that enters the room after you will be confused, and it will be your fault. And I'm sorry, it will be your fault. You need to evaluate for the person, for the company, and for your own personal experience. What worked? What should we do again? What should we not do? What will we never do again? All of those count as an evaluation. And that goes through the ropes model. Research, class. Do your research. Objectives. Find your targets. Pick your targets. Set obvious targets. Planning is vital. You cannot build a house without making measurements. You can't even make the blueprint without the measurements. And lastly is the evaluation. Without evaluating, you're learning nothing. Thank you, class. Go Trojans. The S in the ropes model stands for stewardship. This is like an apology or a gesture to show your customers that you still care. The questions that we discover are, where are we in the beginning of the ropes model? Next, we go to, where are we going and how do we get there? These are very important questions because if you miss these, it'll become very much harder to be successful. Lastly, we have our primary and secondary research, which is done after you've gathered from your first steps.